Okay, Tombofa Rashimi is the founder and managing partner at Tombofa Law Practice. And of course, because I asked a question, what has law got to do with climate change business? Of course, it's a very big issue because you've got to fund it, which is climate change, and all of that, what they're called green bonds. And if you look at all those agreements that needs to be signed, you need folks like Tombofa in the room to make sure we're all on the right side of the law and make sure that everyone knows what is involved in climate change. And this all go into our daily life, economy, social, whatever, and in fact, the future of the planet we live in. Good morning, Tombofa. It's good to have you.
Good morning, Boston.
Thank you. And it's good to see you again.
Thank you.
Been a long time.
It has.
Yes. So, when you say climate change, folks think just in the sense of the Greenpeace guy and the others, and friends of the environment. What is law? Where does law come in here when it comes to legal practice? Expand that, please.
Well, maybe not law. Maybe starting from the business, because law feeds business. Starting from the business is the right place. Prior to now, you know, we regarded climate change as something that was for the do-gooders. So people, environmentalists. And so many of us just thought, no, this is something that no one can bear the cost. So no one regarded it. African governments just thought, look, you know what, why don't we develop our nations with our resources and leave all these climate change issues out of it? But now it's changing. That thinking is actually changing because there is a business around climate change. Now, the IFC came up with an analysis on the investment opportunities in climate change. And it predicted that from now till 2013, African cities, there's an investment opportunity of about $3 trillion in the business of climate change. And the business in climate change surrounds building resilient cities, so cities that can withstand climate shock.
Cities of the future. So between now and 2030.
Yes, the kind of cities we should live in. Cities that
smart cities.
Absolutely. Cities that you use carbon-reduced resources in developing.
Green cities.
Green cities.
Yes.
So that's the business that is now around climate change. So you see where moral suasion couldn't work, money is not working.
We have to repair the planet. We damaged it. We humans damaged the earth. So we've got to pay for this. So we need to find the money because we've extracted resources like coal, another fossil fuel that have damaged the Niger Delta, that have damaged elsewhere, isn't it, in terms of pollution, polluting the waters, the rivers, the aquatic life, agriculture, whatever. So we need to pay for it one way or the other. So we have to pay for this cost. The question is, who's going to pay for it? We, but how do we find the money?
Now, the money is there, and that's what the IFC report says. It says that there are financial institutions, so international financial institutions that are now deliberately funding green projects. There are development organizations that they have deliberately stated that that is what they're going to fund. And businesses are beginning to toe the line. A lot of our IOCs have realized that they wouldn't want to explore any more fossil fuel, and they're now moving towards renewables. And even in Nigeria, in the way there's a lot of renewable businesses being invested in, and now we have green bonds. We had the Access Bank, we had the North-South Power Corp green bond that was just issued. It all comes with the fact that there is available cheaply funding for green projects. And so businesses are now towing the line where morality couldn't work.
If moral suasion wouldn't work, do you think perhaps we should start taxing companies on what you call carbon tax? Do you think we should begin to think about that in Nigeria and said, well, if you do business in the Niger Delta, you're extracting oil, yes, you're paying tax, which is the corporate income tax, but perhaps you could just put a drop here, which goes into clean the environment or climate change tax.
We pay so much tax already. I don't think our businesses can accommodate any extra tax yet. But what is happening in the Niger Delta is amazing, and it's all part of the issue of meeting carbon reduction with gas flaring.
Yes.
You know that the federal government, part of its carbon reduction plan was to ensure gas flaring stopped. And they have commenced with the bidding, with the regulation that is now allowing the federal government to access fled gas and to sell them. So there's the whole
convert it
commercialization.
to real energy.
Absolutely.
Yes, like electricity.
Put into our
yes.
sectors. So there's now the whole commercialization process that is ongoing with the bids going on. And that's just amazing because it's a start. And it's the federal government that is pushing this. And so the government has to, federal government, as state governments, governments of our cities, Lagos State, Abuja, they now have to be the ones to push this new business opportunity, just like they pushed up telecoms, just like they pushed up power. And they start from within them. They have to create the framework. It all starts with the framework of their own internal businesses. And just like money is doing the work now, our money agencies, the CBN, the FIRs, they have to realize that they have to determine not only the carbon reduction pace, but also in helping us to build the kind of cities we need. Our businesses are all doing this for profit, so they are focusing on areas where they can make money. But there are areas where no one will touch. They are the low-income areas where we need to ensure that they are properly built to withstand the shock of climate change. And this is where the government comes in. So if the government is building low-cost housing, they must ensure that everyone bidding, contractors, have a measure of carbon reduction plan in their plans before they can win the contract. If the government is doing, through their agencies, they are doing development projects for low-income people, then they must ensure there's a measure of climate change being taken to them. In financial inclusion, they must ensure that carbon reduction plans are also involved in the kind of resources that are being delivered to them. And in that way, we will meet really what development is all about. We need to really redefine what we mean by development. Is the essence of development just to develop our roads, or is the essence to build lives, to ensure that we all have good lives? If that's what we say development is, then historical empirical facts of modern nations now show that the way they went about their development actually killed lives. And so they've all decided to stop. This week, the UK didn't use coal for production of energy at all for the first time. So if these big nations are not realizing their mistakes in development, why would we African nations want to follow their mistakes? Shouldn't we just start in our development efforts in doing it right, doing it healthy? And now that there's even money available for it, so your government champions it and makes sure that your businesses begin to toe the line and access the finance that is available. So
you think the fourth industrial revolution, if we're going to adopt that here, we should start making it a sustainable industrial revolution?
Absolutely. It's not even a matter of if. It's going to happen. It's happening. It's happening everywhere. Whether we like it or not.
Whether we bother trade
Yes, exactly. It's happening. So we should be prepared and we should benefit from what the world has to give, the partnership of the world, financially especially. And also, you know that one thing the IFC report says is that rating agencies are now prepared to rate cities based on their compliance, based on their resilience to climate shock. And so when your business, your projects will now be rated lower, your city will now be rated lower just because you can't
withstand it. You want to rate Lagos with the flooding and all of that?
Yeah. No. So that's why it's a good time. This is a good time we're having this discussion because governments are just beginning. Federal government is commencing a new tenor. Lagos State.
Are you encouraged by the Green Bond Initiative under Amina Mohammed, the former Minister of Environment?
Absolutely, yes.
Now at the UN?
Yes. Yes, it pushed a lot of things. Nigeria signed up to the Paris Agreement. And so the plans are all there. We have our plans.
Yeah, we signed the agreement. How do you think, because you discussed this, you attend a number of both local and international events around climate change and all that, so you have it all in your head. So do you think we're on the right path? How much more would you want the government at the center to do to make sure that, yes, we didn't just sign, but we live up to it?
We've started. So we've started with the gas flaring, which is good. We've started with renewables. So you see that so many people are going into renewable energy. The Rural Electrification Agency has over the past few years, has started ensuring and putting money there.
The hydropower project?
The hydropower, solar projects. They're doing energizing economies. So they've been doing quite a number of things, ensuring that renewable energy gets to the people, gets to small businesses. That's been done.
That sounds big.
But there's more.
But on the streets,
Absolutely.
Folks who want to see more parks in cities, for example, perhaps we can build more parks in Lagos.
More parks?
Maybe.
It's even about things like transportation, public transportation, ensuring that there are more buses, so you take away so many cars being on the road and causing all the carbon and just the stress. It's about ensuring that happens, and of course that's the government. There's a project in Lagos that I think is in the pipeline as regards that. It's ensuring we have things like that nationwide, because it's not just building businesses, it's not just helping to move people about, it would also be reducing our carbon contribution to the world.
And reduce our misery index.
Absolutely. Although they say we are still happy.
Yeah, because, yes, but because if you look at the number of hours of commuting or driving around Lagos and all of that, even when we have small buses, we still need to have a measure of, we need good life, and we can do a lot more with that.
Which is really what development is all about. Giving your citizens, your residents, good life, quality of life. That's really what the government should be targeting. And now you have partners, you have money, so do it right once and for all, and let our cities be rated amongst the world's best, starting from now.
The federal government is working on it, the NAPC, Minister of, but you don't think more should be done by the Minister of the Environment, Works and Housing, perhaps?
It's about enforcement, it's about regulations, it's about who
You think we have enough on the ground?
We don't, enough of what?
Policies, laws?
We know the policies. Now what we need to do is framework for implementing. There needs to be a nationwide, on the federal government level, state level framework of how is the government going to implement to ensure that its businesses and its people, its low-income people benefit from what is available. So that framework needs to be built. Then the regulations need to be put on the framework, and then there has to be a conscious enforcement amongst government agencies to ensure that we get there.
Okay, that's a nice one. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. So we all sleep better at night and work better during the day.
That's what we all want, isn't it?
So we all want.
Absolutely.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Tombofa Rashimi, who is the founder and CEO at Tombofa Law Practice.